Hey guys, Matt Welch with the Welch Group. Just want to touch base with you real quick in this video and go over how to read your auto policy. We get a lot of questions surrounding auto policies. And so I just thought I'd put it together a quick video to show you how to read it. So real quick up top, here is your carrier. Most every policy is the same way. So while you may not be with Travelers, you may be with somebody else, but it'll work very similar. So in this case, Travelers is the insurance company. The name insured would be right underneath here. This is our information. If you had claims, you could call this number here, roadside assistance, that kind of stuff. Right here is the policy number for the policy. Some carriers have account numbers as well, in addition to the policy number. So it'd be there if it was listed. In this case, this person has a 12-month policy. You can see the dates right here. That's pretty rare nowadays. Almost everybody does a 6-month policy. But in this person's particular case, it is in fact a 12-month policy. Come down here. These are the vehicles that this person owns. Their 17-digit VIN number would be out here beside it. You can find that in the door jamb of your car, or there's usually a metal label up in the front window. And again, it is a 17-digit number. I tell people it's very similar to a social security number for a person. It tells all of the details of your individual vehicle. So it's a very, very important number when dealing with auto insurance. Come down here. Here's your coverages. Again, it's very similar regardless of who the carrier is. These numbers right here change, but these coverages will be listed regardless. So in this person's case, they have for bodily injury, now we're talking about bodily injury only, they have $100,000 for each person and $300,000 per accident. Okay, now that is for the other party. So if this insured hits somebody, okay, at a red light, they have $100,000 each person for the injured party's bodily injury, and then they have $300,000 for the total accident. And again, that covers the other party. Right here is property damage. That is for the other party's vehicle. And in that scenario, what that means is that our insured only has $50,000 if he hits somebody's vehicle. Now, nowadays, most everybody has a backup camera in their bumper, and most people have 4 or 5 different cameras in the back bumper. So when you tap somebody at a red light or something of that nature, you only have $50,000 for their property damage. Now, another thing that we're seeing a lot of nowadays is 2 and 3 cars hitting each other. So whether it's texting and driving or whatnot, somebody hits somebody at a red light and that hits the car in front of them and the car in front of them. Again, in that scenario, if there's 3 cars in the accident, there's only $50,000 for all 3 cars. With the price of cars these days, that's a very important coverage that you need to look at and carefully consider. Come down here, you have uninsured motorist coverage. It looks very similar to this, but this is for you as the insured. If the other party doesn't have enough insurance or doesn't have any at all, okay, you can go to your own policy and have coverage right here. Now, with that said, 30% of all drivers in Florida are not insured at all. So if you're hit by one of those people and they don't have insurance, this is where you would go, assuming that you have this coverage. Come down here, you have personal injury protection. This is often abbreviated as PIP or PIP. You'll see a lot of it about it on the news and that kind of stuff. It's a mandatory coverage here in Florida, not in every state, but here in Florida, it's a mandatory coverage. In that scenario, what that means is regardless of who is at fault in an accident, you go to your own policy first for personal injury for the first $10,000 of damages. Doesn't matter who's at fault. Now, your insurance carrier may subrogate against the other party, but again, at the time of the accident, each person goes to their own policy for the first $10,000 of personal injury damage. Come down here, you have comp and collision. You have it at $500. You can have it from 0 to $250 to $500 to $1,000 to $2,500. Typically, you'll see them they'll match each other like it is in this case. So it's 500 on the comprehensive, and then 500 on the collision as well. Um, Basically, collision pays for damages to your car if you hit an object or another vehicle. Comprehensive covers for things like weather, tree falling, theft, things of that nature. That's what comprehensive is going to cover. So in this scenario, if the person had a collision claim, they'd pay the first $500, and then the insurance company would pick up everything after that. Now, you don't have to have those coverages, and it will lower your premium down. But then at the time of an accident, you have no coverage whatsoever for your vehicle. Again, for the other party's vehicle, assuming you're at fault, it's right here under the property damage. Okay, come down a little bit further. Down here on the second page here, you can see that some of the additional coverages, such as roadside assistance, somebody might have towing and labor here as well. And you would see those coverages right there. Here are all the discounts that are applicable. This pretty much has most of them on there, with the exception of maybe if you had a youthful driver and the good student discount, which is a B average or better. You would see that listed here. The drivers would be listed here. Their dates of birth, their gender, and their marital status. Marital status does affect the rate. So if you have a situation where there's a divorce or spouse passes away or something, you can see that premium change because that marital status has changed. Another important side note here, you have to disclose all drivers in the household, regardless of whether or not they drive your vehicle. It gets off into Florida law, but at the end of the day, they require you to disclose all drivers in the household with a valid driver's license. Now, we can include them or exclude them from the policy, but regardless, you have to disclose them whether they drive your vehicle or not. Come down here. The rest of it is just basic information on the vehicle. Mileage does affect your vehicle. The lower the mileage, obviously, the lower the rate. The more you drive, the more exposure you have because you're on the road quite a bit more. So that reflects in the premium as well. The carriers do have the ability to check that. They do it through like oil changes, and when you bring a car in a dealership and that kind of stuff, all of that is stored in a database that they all have access to. Another couple of important things to keep in mind when we're talking about auto insurance is, if you do Uber, you do Lyft, you do Grubhub, anything of that nature, a regular auto policy will not cover you for it. Make sure you reach out to your agent and talk to them about it. Tell them what you're doing. There are some policies out there that have endorsements on it that can provide the coverage that you need. But a basic policy, a standard auto policy, is not going to cover those exposures. Another important thing is, if you don't have comp and collision on your vehicle, there is no glass coverage for the front windshield. So keep that in mind. If you totally exclude the comp and collision from your vehicle, the premium will go down, but at the same token, you're going to lose the coverage for the glass and the vehicle itself in that scenario. Another real quick important detail that we get a lot of questions on is the liability coverage. It has to be the same for all the vehicles on the policy. You can't do this vehicle at 100, 300, and this vehicle at 1020. The reason for that is they're on the same policy. If it goes to courts or there's a lawsuit or anything like that, they can sue for the higher limits. So the insurance carriers say that the liability has to be the same across all the vehicles. Last but not least, in Florida, full coverage is considered PIP, which is this, and PD of $10,000. That's it. Okay. We don't write limits that low. We just don't have markets for them. Our carriers start, and we only have one that does it this low, but they'll start at $10,000 each person, $20,000 each accident, and $10,000 each accident. We only have one carrier that does that. Most of our carriers start at $50,000 each person, $100,000 each accident, and then $50,000 for property damage. Now, what's also kind of important there is, if you were to have 50, 100, 50 coverages here, Then you open up yourself to just about every carrier for quoting. So just about every carrier is going to want to quote you. If you go down to a 10, 20, 10, then you narrow down the number of carriers that are going to quote you. So for instance, in our case, we write with just about everybody in Florida, but we only have really one carrier, maybe two, that would do 10, 20, 10 here. So you really limit yourself on the amount of options that you're going to have when you take those lower coverages. So just something to think about as you go forward and you're looking at different policies and that kind of stuff. So last but not least, but another thing that I get a lot of questions on is, I pay this amount and my neighbor pays this amount. Unfortunately, I wish it were that simple. Unfortunately, it's not. There's over 500 different rating factors that go into one driver, one vehicle, and one zip code. Now you add in a spouse. Now you add in a second vehicle. Now you add in, a change in address or a different zip code or something like that. And all of that affects the rates that a person pays. So it's impossible to ever say, or for us to ever say, hey, because your neighbor pays this, you would only pay this. It never works that way due to the amount of rating factors that go into the premium. So if you guys have any questions, give us a call here at the office or go to the website and read up on some of the other additional information that we've posted there. But hopefully that helps you understand your policy a little bit better and some of the nuances that come along with the auto insurance. So thank you.